It's raining outside right now, somewhere in the world, and the drops are hitting the ground one at a time, over and over, for hours. Not a single burst, not a giant splash, and then silence. Just this steady, endless rhythm that can go on for an entire afternoon. And if you've ever stood under an awning waiting for a storm to pass, you've probably had this exact thought without ever saying it out loud. There's an entire ocean's worth of water sitting up there in that cloud. So why doesn't it just fall all at once? Most people assume it's about pressure, like the cloud is a balloon, and eventually it just pops and dumps everything out. It sounds logical. Clouds look heavy, they look full, and rain looks like the moment that fullness finally breaks. But here's the problem with that idea. A cloud isn't a container. It doesn't have walls, it doesn't build up pressure, and it definitely doesn't burst. So if that's not what's happening, what actually is? To understand this, you have to go inside the cloud itself, down to a scale most people never think about. A cloud isn't made of water the way you picture water. It's made of millions and millions of tiny droplets, each one smaller than the width of a human hair, floating and suspended in the air. Researchers who study cloud physics estimate that a single small cumulus cloud can contain over 100 billion of these droplets. Individually, they're so light that rising air currents inside the cloud hold them up effortlessly, the same way a gentle breeze can keep a feather floating instead of letting it drop. That's why the cloud doesn't fall. It's not because it's holding back. It's because nothing inside it is heavy enough yet to fall. But here's where it gets interesting. Those droplets aren't just sitting still. Inside the cloud, they're constantly moving, bumping into each other, and merging together in a process called coalescence. Every time two droplets collide and combine, the resulting droplet gets slightly bigger and slightly heavier. This happens over and over, millions of times, in different parts of the cloud, completely independently of each other. Some droplets merge quickly and grow fast. Others take much longer. There's no single moment where the whole cloud decides it's ready. It's happening in bursts, all over the cloud, all the time, like a slow-motion chain reaction with no synchronized starting point. And this is the piece that changes everything. A droplet only falls once it becomes heavy enough to overcome the upward push of the air current holding it there. Meteorologists refer to this as reaching terminal fall velocity, which just means the droplet is finally heavy enough that gravity wins. But since droplets are growing and merging at different rates in different parts of the cloud, they reach that tipping point at different times too. One cluster of droplets might hit that threshold in the next 30 seconds. Another cluster, just a few hundred meters away inside the same cloud, might not be ready for another 10 minutes. That's the real reason rain falls the way it does. It's not one release. It's millions of tiny independent releases happening continuously, spread out across the entire cloud. There's another layer to this that most people never consider. A single rain cloud can be enormous, sometimes stretching for several kilometers in every direction, and the air inside it isn't uniform. There are stronger updrafts in some areas and weaker ones in others. In sections with strong rising air, droplets get held up longer and have more time to collide and grow larger before they fall. In weaker sections, droplets fall sooner, but smaller. This is part of why rainfall intensity can change so quickly during a storm, and why you can sometimes see it raining hard on one side of a street and barely at all on the other. You're not imagining it. You're standing at the edge of two different microclimates happening inside the same weather system. Here's the part that really reframes the whole idea. If a cloud actually could release all its water in a single instant, it wouldn't look anything like rain. It would look like a flood happening in midair, a wall of water slamming down all at once with no time for the ground to absorb any of it. The gradual, staggered nature of rainfall isn't a limitation of the system. It's the entire reason rain is survivable and, honestly, useful. Soil has time to absorb it, rivers have time to carry it away, and plants have time to take it in instead of being destroyed by it. What feels like a slow, almost inefficient process is actually a built-in safety mechanism. spread across billions of individual droplets, making their own separate journey down. So the next time you're watching rain fall steadily outside your window, you're not just looking at water falling from the sky. You're watching the tail end of billions of tiny, individual collisions that happened just moments earlier, each droplet reaching its own tipping point at its own time, completely independent of the one next to it. The cloud never decides to rain. It's just physics playing out, one microscopic collision at a time, spread across an entire sky. If this changed the way you think about something as simple as rain, subscribe, because there are dozens of everyday things happening around you right now that work in ways you've probably never questioned.